In this video, we're going to make sauerkraut, specifically lacto-fermented sauerkraut, which is a probiotic food. Now, I have to say I've never been a huge fan of sauerkraut, but this one I could eat all day. Now, probiotic foods like this have been shown to help reduce the risk of just about every major acute or chronic illness that there is. In fact, the Journal of Applied Microbiology states that probiotic benefits from cultured foods like this include lowering the risk of brain disorders from mental illness, mood disorders like depression and anxiety, cancer, asthma, food allergies and sensitivities, diabetes. It helps against weight gain and various autoimmune diseases. Now, good bacteria from foods like this can help your brain, hormones, all of your organs, and it can also help to improve the function of your immunity, digestion, and control inflammation. So it's worth the 10 minutes it's going to take to make this. I mean, what more could you want? Now, this is full of vitamins and minerals, but the probiotics naturally grow on all vegetables, but especially cabbage. But just understand, this is not typical of commercial or store-bought brands of sauerkraut, nor is it from those boiling water vats that you see at the New York City hot dog vendors. It needs to be made with raw organic cabbage. Now, this is the easiest of all the fermented foods that I make. All you need to do is cut up some cabbage, add salt, and put it in a jar for 2 weeks. So everyone should be doing this. Now, we're going to make this one with red cabbage since it has a lot more vitamins than green, and it looks really cool too. And in fact, red cabbage has 10 times the vitamin C as oranges, for example, but either red or green cabbage is fine. All you need for this recipe is a head of red cabbage, about 1.5 tablespoons of sea salt or Himalayan pink salt like I use for 1 medium-sized head of cabbage. But exact measurements are 3 tablespoons per 5 pounds of cabbage. And just don't use table salt. It's terrible for you and it won't work. Now, you also need a mason jar, and if you need extra brine or basically salted water, you're going to use 1 tablespoon of sea salt per 4 cups of pure water. It has to be filtered. And just for fun and a little more flavor, I'm going to add 3 cloves of garlic. Now, start by removing any outer wilted leaves from the cabbage, and for every jar of cabbage that you're going to make sure you have at least 1 big leaf so you could hold down the sauerkraut below the brine once we make it, but I'm going to show you that at the end. And then start by cutting the cabbage in half and shredding it. And using a vegetable slicer to help us, because the thinner you can get this, the better. Next, put the cabbage in the bowl in layers and salt each one of the layers. What's happening here is we're allowing the salt to extract the water from the cabbage, which is what creates our brine. Then let this sit for about 30 minutes so the salt can get the liquid out. Then just mash this down or knead or press it, let it sit for another 10 minutes. I'm actually using the mason jar to do this because it has the most surface area. While you're doing this, you're making the brine that we need because the water comes out of the cabbage. And add the garlic if you're putting that in as well. Then just put the cabbage in a jar. Press it down tight to be sure it's submerged under the water. And if you don't have enough water in there, you can add the water with the salt. And as mentioned, it's 1 tablespoon per 4 cups of water, and only add what you need. And lastly, we just use the whole leaves we took off earlier to push and hold down the cabbage underneath the brine. Then just put the lid on and you're done. Now, you can store this at room temperature. In a cabinet is best since vitamin C is light sensitive and the dark will preserve that. Now, gas and carbon dioxide is a normal part of the fermentation process, so you'll see some bubbles forming in there, and it's good to put the cap on lightly as well as burp it every couple of days so that you can let some of the pressure out, especially in summer, and also store this on a plate so that in case it does overflow, it doesn't get all over your cabinet. Now, you can eat this after about 3 days, but it's better to wait at least a week and best to wait between 2 to 4 weeks. And just remember, the more you let it ferment, the more probiotics and the better it's going to taste. So when I make this, I'll usually use about 4 heads of cabbage, which would make about 6 mason jars worth. And then you could store that in the refrigerator for at least 6 months. Now, if there's any white film or you see some type of fungus growing on top, you could actually remove that and eat what's under the water, as that won't be affected and is totally safe for you. You also don't want to eat it from your mouth putting the spoon in your mouth and then back into the jar, because remember, we're creating a colony of good bacteria here. We don't want to introduce the bacteria from your mouth into the jar. And I'll also have other recipes for this in the blog associated with this video, such as ones that are a little more spicy. Sometimes I'll put onion and habanero or cayenne pepper in there, and you can see the blog for that. Now, I hope you try this because it's a lot of probiotics here. In fact, a serving of this, which is about a quarter or a half of cup, has more probiotics than in half a bottle of probiotics. So you might want to work your way up to that as well, since you could have a little bit of a healing crisis as your body removes all the toxins from this. And if you do like it, I have a full playlist of other fermented foods such as kefir, kombucha, fermented vegetables, and more. So for more videos on health and wellness related to mind, body, and spirit, don't forget to subscribe and check out the blog at theartofunity.com. Good luck with this.